Hey, welcome everybody. It is great to have you here. We are really looking forward to this workshop with you. If you haven't had an opportunity to do so yet, Eleni's holding it up. There's a download, there's a worksheet, and we'll put that in the chat shortly. But we're really happy to have you here, and we'll be starting in just a moment. But before we do, we wanted to kind of give you a little bit of what's going on with the nature journaling community right now. There are lots of really great opportunities to find different different educators and people who can inspire you about nature journaling. And so I'd love to introduce my co-host, Avea Moore. Hold on. Let's see. Bring up Avea. My amazing co-host, Avea Moore. And Avea, I was wondering if you might fill us in on a little bit of what are some of the really great nature journaling opportunities that you can find in this coming week.
Absolutely. So tonight and also on Sunday, we have Bug Nights with Trisha Nichols, the incredible Trisha Nichols. You can find her on YouTube or on Jack's community calendar. Also, on Saturday, we have Pencil, Mouse, and Chill at its usual 3. And then on Sunday, we have Melinda Nakagawa online with the Monterey Bay Nature Journal Club at 9:30. And so if you have been wanting to have some fun with nature journaling on the weekends, I highly recommend coming and hanging out with her. Oh, and I forgot to mention yesterday to the lovely Educators Forum that there is also a Curious Naturalist book club going on Tuesday evenings with a really fun book that we'll probably show you at some point, because that's what we do. And anything else, I will be putting up 2 links. One of them will be to Jack's community calendar. Oh, there's the book. There's the book. Very nice. I will be putting up the links to Jack's community calendar and also the Wild Wonder community calendar. About half of our educators have made it over there, and so we're waiting for just the other half. So right now the dates are kind of split between the two, but hopefully in good time they'll all be in one stop shop on the Wild Wonder Foundation's website. And with that, I pass it back to Jack and our friend whose name I do not know, but they are awesome. And thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Pete. This is Pete. Today we are going to actually need to go get my worksheet that just printed out. We're going to be playing with some giraffe. We'll take a little bit of a look at the giraffe underneath the hood. And then we'll be putting meat on the bones, and we'll be putting spots on our giraffe and thinking a little bit about these really cool critters. It's fun. It's fun to sketch a giraffe because they're just frankly weird. They're really, really, really weird. And hold on a second, there we go. Come on. I'm getting my, making sure that all my cameras are working here. That big old neck is just really, it's disorienting. And it's fun to draw something that, if you're used to looking at deer, giraffe is just going to freak you out, and that's a lot of fun. But there's also just some body mechanics behind it that make it make sense. And hold on, I'm going to there you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show I'll have some slides on one side, and we'll be able to sketch on the other side of the screen. You're going to want, again, were we able to put the link in the chat? Or should I do that? Oh, thank you so much for doing that, Avea. So if you have a chance to print that bad boy out, please do. Um, and if you don't have that, then we'll just sort of sketch along, and we can draft our own on the fly. We'll try to remember to put a link to that download in the event description, both on YouTube and on my website. And let me see here. I need one more. Aha, there I go. Um, there I am. So let's get started. Let's take a look at Giraffe and see what we can do to play with them. Let me do my share screen. Share my desktop. And I'm going to just make a few hide video panel. I'm going to hide my floating meeting controls. If we look on the giraffe family tree, there is some crazy, crazy stuff. Some giraffe things in the same. Some relatives of giraffe have giraffe, and they don't have horns. They've got these things called ossicorns, which are these crazy little bumps, bone core things that stick up on top of their head. Some of the cousins of giraffes have some just amazing structures that we find in the fossil. I think these are Miocene age things. Of course, that all the stripes and the patterns are completely made up. But we know the basic bone structure: a male on the right and a female on the left, and that's just fun. That's really fun. When we look at them today, well, we still have giraffe and their close relative, the okapi, bouncing around, and they're a lot of fun. So we'll be taking a look at the skeleton and adding some muscles onto it. And then our intention is to wrap the skin around it. So here is a frolicking little baby giraffe having a really good time at the zoo. And what we want to do is notice some sort of the basic structure of this animal. And actually, in this photograph, it's really, really easy to see all the joints. A little bit easier it is when the giraffe is in a standing static position. So I would like to use this as an opportunity just to, I'm going to draw a little bit on the screen here. And so I'll be drawing with my mouse. So please forgive some kind of wonky lines. So you've got these prominent bumps right here and right here. And what those is the shoulder of the giraffe. And so that's making this big bump on the front of the giraffe. This little ridge going back here is the shoulder blade. And so from the shoulder, then back to here, that is your elbow. So from the shoulder on the static one back here to your elbow. From the elbow, we go to the wrist, and notice how kind of big and blocky this is. This joint is really nice and big and blocky. And so down here, we're going to the wrist. Oh, I should have brought this up earlier.
Never mind.
From the wrist, this is on a human being. From your wrist, these bones right here are all fused together in the ungulates. And so these are your carpal bones, these are your metacarpal bones. So this is a fused metacarpal that sticks down. And then the fingers come down beyond that, and the animal is standing on its fingernails. So here is the end of the metacarpal bone. These are the finger bones, and then the hoof down here, that is the fingernail. On the back side, let me kind of clear some of this up. On the back side, we have, I'm going to just sort of start with kind of a prominent joint and work back from that. So going from this, whoops, let's get, here we are. We have this joint here. So what is that? Take a look over on this skeleton here and see if you can figure out what joint that is. And if you said that is the knee, you get to go to the front of the class. That's its knee right there. So the knee bone connects to the hip bone, right? And the hip bone runs along the spine. So the knee bone is coming back, it's connecting to the hip bone in here, and this critter's hip bone is going from about there to about there. So hip bone, and then you have the heel coming out here. So there's a bone that comes out here to the heel. And notice how that bone that comes out to the heel, you've got this little tab that sticks up. The heel being right back here. And from the heel, these are your metatarsal bones, all fused together. So those are the instep of your foot. So that's this part of your foot, all fused together. And then the little toe bones stick out on the end of that. There's little toe bones, and again, it's walking on its fingernails. So those are your major bones. And just sort of imagine, I want everybody to lift your hand up and let your hands kind of flop in front of you. And just sort of notice that when you bring your forearm up, your wrist naturally bends down. All right, so you're kind of wondering which way do these bones bend. Now you curl your fingers back like that. You can bend your wrist back like this. You can bend your fingers back like that. So you can use sort of the homology of your own body to help you figure out how these bones are going to move. So the joint here from the wrist, it's this is its range of motion is basically from here, and then it can flip it back. Now your wrist, of course, can flip up like that. These have all sorts of ligaments in place, not allowing them to do that. That's going to help because that has to be a major weight-bearing thing, and you don't want it to buckle in the wrong direction. So the range of motion of these guys is something like you're seeing here. Actually, this can come down straight. And I am going to erase this part here. All right, so there's our little waving giraffe. Now, I'm going to clear these lines away. This little giraffe that is in front of you is a reticulated giraffe. There are 4 species of giraffe. We used to think there are all one big species, but there are 4 species. There's a northern, a southern, a reticulated, and the Maasai. We're going to be mostly focusing on the Maasai giraffe today. But the reticulated giraffe is nice because it allows us to, its spot pattern is more simple. And so it's nice just to take a look at it and sort of see what are some kind of generalizations that you can make about it. Take a look at it. Where are there big spots? Where are there little spots? Where are there big spots? Where are there little spots? Right? So notice they're much more in a patchwork all over the body, and the legs kind of going up the neck. They're looking a little bit more symmetrical there. Big on the neck, big on the body. But as we get down into the legs and on the face, we have tiny little dots. All right, that's just a good thing to notice when the critters are moving around. If you have a general idea in your head of what the patterns are going to be, you're in good shape. Another thing that's interesting about the spots is the lines or the spots are different on every individual giraffe. So every individual giraffe has its own unique pattern of spots. And so if you get this giraffe's spot lines in slightly the wrong place, nobody's going to say, whoa, giraffes don't do that, because you're saying, well, I was just drawing a different giraffe. So this is a Maasai giraffe. And notice how the spots on the Maasai giraffe are a little bit more jagged. We still have big spots here on the body, big spots on the neck, a little bit more symmetrical on the neck, kind of going up in 2 rows. Where have we seen that before? Oh, there, yeah. All right, so same. All right, and littler ones going on the body. But notice that these are looking a little bit more maple leafy, a little bit more jaggedy on the spots. That's kind of a Maasai giraffe thing. So reticulated giraffe look much more neat. Maasai giraffe have a lot of these more maple leaf patterns. And very often, as this little youngster is showing here, there are these little white intrusions into the spot. So instead of just being a big blotch there's a little, almost like a stem of the maple leaf going into it. And you'll see that on a bunch of Maasai giraffes. So here is another Maasai giraffe. Let's actually just kind of go back to this one and look here on its hip. This specific spot with a 3 above it, this little double here with a line through it, with 3 above it, is not there on the hip of this one. Because again, they each are doing their own thing. And but you see again this sort of general Maasai giraffe pattern where there are a number of things where, places where there's a little stem going into them. They have more jagged and sort of maple leafy patterns. And we will get into drawing these spots on top of a giraffe at the end of this workshop. And you're thinking, this is going to, I do not have patience for this. I'm going to show you 2 great strategies if you don't have patience to do every little spot and line there. And if you do want to draw them all, what is a fast field sketching way to help you do that? So one last look up. This is a group of Maasai giraffe. So you can see those kind of super blotchy patterns. And what I'd like you to do is just compare 2 giraffe. Look at the same spot on two giraffe and just notice how individual these different ones are. But still the general pattern of small on the hips, larger on the body, bigger on the neck, they apply. Notice that some giraffe are darker than others. The background field of them is darker. Tend to have a lot of white in the face, then more tawny on the neck and body, and on the belly and going down onto the legs, you get these different patterns. So everyone is its own little unique giraffe. That's really fun. So how do we go about drawing these rascals? Well, I'm glad you asked. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my little friend here to block in some major muscle groups. And then
you might want to raise the page up just a bit.
Oh, yes.
My friend is really tall.
There we go. I'll get it lined up like that. Drawing wildlife is an excuse for me to bring out my stuffies. So let's put some meat on the bones. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the neck, and a little bit later I do intend to kind of go in and make a little revision on this neck here. I'm coming out and it's kind of coming up and then up like this. What I'm seeing from looking at lots of giraffe is that these first vertebrae in here, I think they tend to do this a little bit more. I think that they kind of come out, and then after these two vertebrae, about in here, we then tend to go up much more steeply. So you will tend to see on a giraffe a sort of on the neck kind of a two-part thing. One is, I'm going to just sort of make a little over here. So there's a lower part that's going to sort of start you up, and then you're going to get into the up part of your neck. So look for that little bend in the neck. Sometimes it's a little bit more obvious on the back than it is on the front, so I'm going to smooth out my front a little bit. But that is sort of it's a typical giraffe neck thing. I see some drawings where the neck is perfectly straight out. They can do that, but very often you'll see this little kink in the neck. And then what's fun is there's a tiny little itty-bitty face attached onto that. And we'll be playing with the giraffe face in a little bit. But the head of these things is surprisingly small. That makes sense, though. If you're going to, the heavier you have a head up here, the more it's going to be difficult to move that around with that long lever. So that's fun. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this giraffe a little bit more buff. There is a cone of big fleshy muscles that attaches on the back edge of the shoulder blade. It's the triceps, and it goes to this little point right here. The tip of
I apologize, I'm not sure we're seeing the...
Oh, that's right. My screen has frozen. My screen is frozen. What's going on? Let me turn off the video. Turn on the video. Let me change cameras. It's not letting me change cameras. It's saying, no, I do not want to do this. Well, let's do this. I'm going to go through this a little bit, then I'll turn off screen share. And um, so I'll kind of we'll hit this once with this this stuff on the left. And oh, actually, let me try to unplug. Sometimes
We can see your mouse moving.
yeah. And come on back. Come on back. Now it's beach balling. And here we are back. All right. Thank you for pointing that out. So along the back edge of the shoulder blade here, and a little bit in here on the humerus, that's where the tricep muscles attach and or originate, and then they attach, then they insert right in here. So that's going to make this big, fleshy mondo muscle, 3 heads of it. The one that attaches to the humerus is a little bit buried. Right in here. And so that makes the the upper part of the chest here nice and big and blocky. They have a little biceps that is in here. It gives you a little bit of weight out here. But we can just roughly think of that as then just this big piece of wonderful giraffe meat attaching right up here. The more we go down the leg, the skinnier things get. There's a muscles that attach in here on the underside of this bone, and they come down past here. So there's a set of bones, of muscles that make, you can imagine a little cone going down here. But when you get to that first joint, remember how blocky it is. Think of kind of a big ball of a blocky knee joint, and down below that, everything's operated by tendons. Blocky a little bit again when you get to the end of the metacarpals, and then you're down into your little hoof. So big muscle area, medium, and then small, everything with tendon. And also we have that kind of nice blocky knee. So what this does is that gives you this cool angle here in the front part of, so we can also add a little bit of some pectoral muscles here. There's this cool angle in the front part of the giraffe that sticks out. So this this shoulder makes this very, very clear angle right here on our little giraffe friend. So we'll be looking for that, and that helps you kind of get your front leg. The muscles on the back leg essentially make, from, if you go from the
Would you scooch over the page?
Oh, thank you. From the front of the hip bone to the back of the hip bone, if you imagine things kind of fanning out to the knee and a little bit behind here, that's going to be your sort of box of muscles in front of the leg, muscles in back of the leg, that are going to be moving your hip and some movement of the knee. So if you're trying to look for like the quick and dirty version of it, and then we'll put some gluteus muscles. You sort of have a big block of muscles here over the thigh bone, over the femur. So those are muscles that are going from the edge here down to the kneecap. So there are muscles that are doing this. There are other muscles in here that are attaching to the knee. There are muscles that go from the point of the hip bone here down this. And again, that is going to all make a great big box up there on the leg. Particularly knobby is this knee. And sometimes you will see this kind of double knee look, because at some angles you'll see this, the bump here, and then the bump of this. So it'll look like there's this double knee business going on. On the back of the leg, just as we went from big, big to medium, we're going to do the same thing, big, medium, small, going down this. Here, the gastrocnemius or calf muscle attaches on the back side of that femur and attaches to the tip of the heel down here. So that's going to come in here. And in the lower part, it's a little tendon that sticks up, and then it gets beefier in here. So if I've got this big tendon here and this big bone here, that is going to leave a very prominent gap right back here on the leg. So on the back leg, look for this little gap, and it's a nice little, it's a prominent anatomical point that you can include in your sketches, and will make them make your critter a lot more muscly. You have a big wad of tendons and tissues around there, and again we are standing on our fingernails. So that is my basic structure for my giraffe body. Beef up those ankles, beef up the front wrists, and the detail for the heel. So I'm going to put more of a blocky wrist on, and on the heel, I'm going to have that little space between the Achilles tendon and the tibia and the fibula coming down. Now the belly of this thing attaches up in here. It hangs down like that. So you're going to sometimes sort of, you're going to see perhaps the end of this knee here. You can see that, and you can see, but sometimes the heel here, or the elbow here, is going to be hidden up against the body because the body kind of tucks in there. Want to point out one other feature, of this, and that is, notice how long these projections are on the lumbar vertebrae. Lumbar vertebrae are, this is your lumbar spine, this is your cervical spine, your lumbar attaches to your rib cages, your rib cage, and then thoracic vertebrae, not lumbar. All right, thoracic vertebrae in here, lumbar in here, and sacral vertebrae down here. So these thoracic vertebrae in here they've got these spines on the back. Everybody's got spines on the back. If you ever feel your friend's back, you can feel little bumps, a bump in the middle of the human spine. But on these critters, these spines on these thoracic vertebrae are really, really, really big. They're really, really big. And what's going on is that because there is so much neck and head out here, you need a lot of strength to be able to hold this head up. If that was all done with muscles, your giraffe would get very tired. So to handle that, there is a ligament that comes up these, and it is going to go up the back here and attach on the back of the head here. And from that ligament, there are attachments to each these vertebrae, and those help keep that neck up. So it's a stretchy ligament that wants to return to this position. And so kind of at rest, this head is going to pop up. And then it can, with a little bit of effort, put its head down, but your head is pulled up by this set of ligaments that go along the back here. And as a result of that, you often are going to find on some of these guys, this bump is even bigger, and you get this very prominent hump up here in the back. So the giraffe, the neck can come down, and very often the neck goes into a big hump on the back, and then you get to the back of the rest of the giraffe. So look for this big hump. Now take a look at this beautiful, beautiful giraffe here. Think that this is a northern giraffe. And notice this huge hump here. That's what's going on. So you're coming down the neck, you have the big hump, and then you get into your back here. Your spine, on the meantime, is coming in here. This is all just projections of that spine coming up, and then up like that. So notice this big bump in the front. What is that big bump? Notice this double bump here on the front of this leg. Huh, that's cool. Notice this little shadowed divot at the heel. Ooh, this anatomy is starting to come together. So let's take a closer look at the face of the giraffe. And as kind of a quick and dirty thing, I like to think of the face of the giraffe as a big triangle. It's going to get narrower towards the front. And in the back, you have the brain case, and up on the front, there's this really kind of cute little rounded muzzle, the sort of poofy giraffe lips. The eye is set high in the head, and the ear is behind that. Depending on the age and the individual, they will have different size ossicorns sticking up on their head, sometimes more crested. Sometimes the females have more kind of tufts of hair on these because they're not rubbing them off fighting. And sometimes you also get a bony projection coming out here in the middle of the face. So not paired, that would be one in the middle, kind of unicorn style. And then as you're looking at your critter, you can kind of work your way around those forms, and that gives you your shape of your mouth. So the mouth is going to be a little mouth at the tip of that big snout. So there's a little mouth that comes out there, and a big old jawbone. When you get to draw the eye of the giraffe is, they've got really, really good vision. And so the eyes are fairly large. It's not all visible to us, but do expect the giraffe to have a fairly good-sized eye. And one reason a lot of other critters like to hang around with a giraffe is because they're constantly looking around. base of the ear is a little rounded thing, and then the ear itself kind of comes out as a little pointed arrangement from that little rounded base. If you just have an eye floating in the middle of your critter's head, it is going to feel really kind of floating. So a few of the little sort of shadows, indentations of the eyes stick out on the side, and so a little hint that this eye is sort of sticking out. There's some shadow underneath it. That's going to help your eye kind of bulge out towards the side. In addition to patterns, if you're out in the Serengeti, the shadows can be very, very stark and bold. And so look for those and don't be shy about dropping them in. Let's just take a moment with the head of this giraffe. Notice it's not a Maasai giraffe. And let's just give yourself a moment to sketch this one. Just on your own. Give yourself an opportunity to do that. Sometimes giraffe mouths can look really pointy. If you're out and you're looking at a critter and you feel overwhelmed by what to draw, how to draw the whole giraffe, focus in on some little part of it and just do a section of it. And sometimes that just makes it a little bit more manageable. You could even do an eye or an ear. You don't have to do a whole feature. You could do a leg. You know, you're out there with a giraffe and you're studying what does the leg of the giraffe look like? And if you don't like your giraffe, then just start another one, and then another one, and then another one. Let's just take that head and turn it. If I'm doing a foreshortened view of a head, I really like to establish the middle of the head. So if it's kind of looking towards me at an angle, here's the line right down the middle of its head. And then um, I can kind of build it up from there. But this line down the middle of the head establishes for me kind of this really essential plane. And then I can think of that as, I can start to think of this head geometrically. If this is the front of my face, we're then going up this surface here. So this is a little simplifying tool that I'll sometimes put in my head to try to make the head a little bit more geometric. Another thing that helps is I don't want one eye down here and one eye up here. Because it's turned towards me a little bit, I'll be able to see where a feature is on either side of the face. So if the bottom of the head is here, right? If the eyes are in here, they're going to be parallel to this line. The top of the head is in here, it's going to be parallel. So I can think of these as sort of sets of parallel lines. And I'm going to, the base of where the eye is on one side will be where the eye is on the other. That way I don't have one eye up here and one eye down low. I call this strategy making parallel guides. So here is my my forehead of my critter. The side that is towards me here, I'm gonna make a little bit bigger. I'm just putting a little diamond on the top of it. And then that allows me to, there's a place for an eye on this side. And then the eye on the other side is going to be, at that same height. So a big eye ridge on the far side. If this ear on this side here comes up and ends here, I don't want to put the other ear up here. Oh, no, I don't. I'm going to have it with the parallel guide. It's going to be tucked down in here. So it is coming to the same height. If I have ossicorns that are sticking up, the tips of those ossicorns are going to be at the same height. And then over that framework, I can start to, draw my critter. You have a major bump that is coming down here. I want to think of the front of the mouth. If there is any little kind of pointy moment there, wants to keep a track. Where's that center line? So I want my nostrils to be on either side of it symmetrically. So here we get a sense of how the eye is really sticking out on the side. Notice there's that bump of the eye on the other side. So if my ears line up, my eyes line up, top of my nostrils line up. Right, so there's that little bit of the eye sticking out, that eye bump on the other side. You can even see its lashes. And finally, let's take a look at sort of a 3/4 view of a standing giraffe. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to really get boxy and cubist on thinking about this body. It's useful when you're sketching a critter to have a kind of a light framework. Very often the line down its back is very, very helpful. But I'm starting off with just a very loose, scribbly drawing of what I'm seeing. But how these legs sort of fit into this sort of snossage with sticks coming out framework, when it's all circles, it's hard to kind of figure that out. So if I'm looking at this from the front, right, this could be a rear view. Here would be the rump, and then but this is a front view. I want to think of the plane of the front of this animal. So roughly, if the front of my animal is here, then I have this box kind of coming back like that. And I can get more sophisticated on that little box by putting in, going out to the shoulder and back. So you see how I put this angle into the front of this box. And from there, I can stick my neck into it. So the neck is going to come into this little portion here. So my neck is going to come down into that. And my legs are going to come down from here. Notice up there on the head, if this one's looking at me, I'm going to be doing the same sort of a thing with, if this is the base of its nose, this is where its eyes are, this is where its ears are, this is where its ossicorns are. And so those little parallel guides can help me block in those sorts of details. I've got horns, I've got ears. And then I would start to do my drawing just right on top of that. Like where you make it bump out, all these sorts of things. The animal in front of you is going to be helping you get all those sorts of details. But just sort of knowing that you're going to have bigger muscles up here at the front is really, really helpful. Maybe it will be helpful just to mention something about this brisket area right in here. This is the front of the animal, right in here. The pectoral muscles, the big Arnold Schwarzenegger pectoral muscles, you'll see those on a critter. Let me kind of just, I don't want to do the whole body in detail, but let me just sort of point something out here about kind of drawing.
Sorry, scooch it over just a little.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's just kind of work the front of this beastie a little bit in detail. If this is that point of the shoulder coming out, and then we've got muscles coming down, and then maybe expanding out into these joints here. What's going on right here in the middle of the chest? Well, there are these two twin bumps that come down. So if here's the line between them, there's going to have one bump here, And then the other bump of the pectoral muscle is going to be in here. So you get these two bumps making the front of your pectoral muscle. And then this leg is going to come in here. If there's my elbow, I've got that big, juicy tricep muscle sticking up behind it. So what I'm doing here is just pointing out that this is the pectoral muscle here. So I can think of that as a little circle in the front with a line kind of coming down through it. That is, you're going to see on the front of a zebra. You're going to see a front of that on an eland. You're going to see that on a lion, on any quadruped that's pointing towards you. Between those two front legs, there's this little kind of pectoral moment. It's useful to have that in your vocabulary. There's a tummy. And I just want to point something out on the legs here. And that is that front legs are pretty straightforward here. But on this back leg, this one here is pointing towards you. Whoops. And so you don't really see this bend in the leg. Very often the back leg will be out at a slightly different angle, and you'll be able to see the bend in that one. Here, maybe I put too much bend in it. But here would be the back leg sticking out there. And so you'll see these back legs at a slightly different angle than those front legs. Similarly, notice that on this front leg, you're coming down to the front of the hoof, this close leg, the front of the hoof. The back ones, you're seeing that leg at a slightly turned out angle. Because this front leg doesn't have a real bend in it, you still get basically the same appearance, just that the tip of it is now stepping out at a slightly different angle. But on the back leg, you're actually seeing more of the side of the leg and more of the side of the hoof there. The heads on these just feel so ridiculously small. If you are confused with all the spots, start perhaps by putting in the shadows to give your animal form, and then you can drop your patterns on top of that. Or maybe you're just lucky enough that there's a giraffe without any patterns. If you are going to be doing the pattern, again, noticing small to bigger to biggest up in here, and more symmetry going up the neck. And if you're doing a Maasai giraffe, then you're doing these sort of weird patterns. Let's also think about how these patterns are going to wrap around the surface. If they are on a flat surface, you will see these patterns just, reticulating and kind of connecting to each other. If it's going around a shape, a rounded form, then towards the edges of it, the shapes will get smaller because they're being foreshortened. In the middle of the form, you'll see large size, but you notice how these ones along the edge here are smaller because you're wrapping around a form. So that deserves a little sketch over here. So if you're doing the things around a rounded form, you can have big patterns here in the middle, but as you get up to the edge, you're going to see those as smaller. smaller patterns. So smaller, trimmed off, not smaller this way, so they're not getting, you know, small like this, but they're still long, but they're skinnier in this zone and in this zone, and they're wider in this zone. If it's going around an angled form, when it comes over the top of the angle, it is just like you're seeing a wall, a flat surface, because you're really not seeing that part that kind of wraps around. So let's now think about how we can go about putting, notice here, big in the middle, skinny ones on the sides here. So let's put some spots on this giraffe. All right. So I have a notebook here. Hold on, I've got papers flying all over my office. Let's see. These are past classes, and there we go. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch this giraffe. I've got some gray toned paper here, and I'll show you how this works with white paper. But if I do it on toned paper, I've got, it's even a little bit even easier for me, and easier for me to, definitely easier for me to demonstrate. So one way I might approach drawing this little giraffe is to start with just this line going down its back. And then say that, all right, that gives me sort of a body-ish in here. And so I'm going to make more of a kind of a general kind of loose, sketchy, there's a cool bend in the neck. Oh, I like that. I'm going to give myself a little head here. Made my head too pointy. Little back, little rump. All right, I'm going to think if my upper part of my body is this big, is my body going to be like this? No, my body wants to be a little bit deeper. Okay, so I'm going to follow a negative shape around the front of this part here, and maybe make this body down here. Does that feel good? That feels a little bit better. So notice I originally, my belly was up here, but I stopped and I checked my proportions. And I moved my belly down here, and now I've got enough room for a rumen. So I'm going to have one leg coming down here. Let's look at this negative shape here. There's another leg that comes down here. Another leg back there. So when I've got something kind of loosely blocked in, let's get the sort of these are wrists down here. And so the legs do continue somewhere down there, but I don't know how far. Let's see if I can make some other kind of changes before adding any detail to this. So this looks pretty wide here. I'm going to move this leg in. I like that kind of closer together feeling. What about that line along the back? Yeah, something like that. Is my neck too long? Let's think about that. Is this neck too long? I know they've got long necks, but did I do it too long? Maybe a little bit too long. It's easy on something with a long neck to give it a long neck. So I'm going to actually just bring this head down just a little trim, and I'm just sort of I'm not measuring any specific point. I'm just kind of getting a little feeling like, yeah, that just feels a little bit necky. Now, this chest comes down. I move this little point down here. That feels better. Now notice I had that bump up here. I moved it down. Later on in the drawing, once I kind of get in there with my ink, I'm not going to be able to move any parts of this giraffe around. But right now, I'm not committed to any bit of this giraffe. So this shape is plastic. I'm pushing out parts, I'm pulling other parts. I'm modifying those. Right, and once I kind of like what I've got, then I can go ahead and ink it in. So I put something down loosely. I modified it. I changed it up. I moved things around. Well, there's a different kind of angle to the neck, isn't there? This, yeah, I could, you see, I've got so much head drawn up here that now, even though I'm realizing that I've got my neck angle too steep, I really don't want to move it because it's a nuisance. Because I noodled in some head details in here before getting that neck position better, so yeah, my neck should be kind of, out more, doing something like that. But mine was too steep. But now I really don't want to move that head around because I don't want to go do that again. So I have to make a call. Do I stick with this sort of off neck position? And today I am. So I'm going to draw my giraffe with this slightly wrong neck angle. Maybe it could do that, but just sort of goes to show that when you put in details, your brain no longer really wants to kind of get in there and modify things, and that makes things hard. So in the ear here, I'm just going to draw the shape of that dark zone in there. Do you have yeah, you've got a bump on your head. Little ossicorn sticking out. And then there's this cool little crest, a mane that comes down. Has a tail that is coming in here. And there is a So I'm just going to get a little sketch of this lovely beastie There's a double bump in here. Pretty straight leg. Yeah, that was too high. All right. So I can make a pen sketch. And then I want to put my patterns on top of it. If I'm working on white paper, it's really easy to do this next technique. And it's not going to be quite as, it's actually a little bit better than what you think I'm about to do. You think I'm just going to draw on it with this white pencil. You're right. But I'm actually going to add a few other, I'll show you something that's really kind of neat about doing this pattern this way. If I were to do, I wanted to give it a, if I wanted to give it, if this was in strong shadow, I'd probably put the shadow in first. But this is something, the next thing I want to do, I would want to make sure my paper were dry. So actually, if I were working out in the field, I might just do this first, just because then I wouldn't have to wait for this paper to dry. And what I'm going to do is out here in the body, I'm going to start to draw in. It's easier around these big shapes to draw in the white lines. And so I would just kind of go around, put in some of these little Maasai giraffe patterns. And I'm not following it spot by spot, but I'm getting a general feeling for what, spots in that area do and how big they are. And every once in a while, what I'll do is I'll look at a spot and I'll go like, oh, I'll draw that spot. And so that I'm not just totally making up my spots, but I don't have to get every one. So in some places, like right now, I'm just going to, fill in an imaginary spot, and that there's another spot here. And so it's a combination of, I'm going to look to the spot, and as I'm getting up here on the back, I'm going to get smaller and let some of these ones kind of come over the edge. And as I go down here on the leg, I'm going to make them smaller. But I'm giving this colored pencil a fair amount of pressure. I intentionally want these to be fairly bold for two reasons. You'll see that in just a second. And going up the neck, there seems to be these sort of sets of parallel ones and then smaller as you get towards the face. So I'm making kind of bigger, bolder spots in here. Now the giraffe that you're looking at has moved on, but there's another giraffe, and I'm going to just sort of jump over to that giraffe and kind of continue the general pattern, unless I really wanted to kind of lock into one giraffe, and then I'd have to follow that giraffe. And I get something that is, in some places I'm going to make some of these lines thicker. Thicker in the neck, that's what I want. I want to make some of the lines thicker up there in the neck. There we go. All right, now you were thinking to yourself, okay, that's the trick. We just draw these things on toned paper. Maybe I could use brown paper, and you absolutely could. But hang on for a moment, folks, because there is this really, really fun thing you get to do. You see, colored pencil doesn't like watercolor. Watercolor won't stick to it very well. So now I just look at this thing and I say it's generally warmer brown here on the back, and it's a lighter tan down in here, then it's getting really pale on the belly, and all right. Now, I am going to mix up some paint and see if it looks kind of close when I do this. And it does. I'm going to test it out here on the side of the paper, see what it looks like on my page. And then look what I get to do. Ooh. And then I'm going to get it to be a little bit more tan and test this color. Yeah, like that. And if some of these spots on some giraffe, there are even darker spots in the middle of those other spots. And if I've got one of those giraffe with those sort of patterns, then I can put them in after I put in that first coat. But the those white lines are easier to draw. The white lines are easier to draw than it is to draw the spots. So if you tried to actually just draw the spots, your brain would start to kind of go nuts. And instead, if you are drawing those white lines in, then it's much easier for your brain to handle those. And then you just slop the watercolor on top of it, and now I have a brown giraffe. I think I want to make this a little bit more red-brown on its back. And so I can just put that right over there. And then come into that main And that helps me be able to get those patterns. I think I need to follow up with some patterns here on the head. That's my giraffe trick. So we've put some on top of some of the anatomy, which we explored. I can play with my white pencil, and then I can come along on top of that. I can play with my my watercolor, and they really interact together nicely, and I don't go quite as nuts though trying to follow those patterns that I'm seeing. Let's just give this critter a little bit of a place to stand. So depending on the time of year, you'll have brown, you'll have greens coming in. My friend Jack Revy sent me this little whittled embossing tool. I'm just going to scratch some lines in here. And it's just suggesting a little bit of texture. That's just a little piece of wood that he's whittled into sharp points on either end. And thank you, Jack. So that is my giraffe thought for the day. Let's see, where is, here we go. Remember, all these details are going on top of our understanding of the anatomy. And we put those together, and we're good to go. I'm going to change my camera here, and I hope that these strategies help you. Oh, I see Jack. Hey Jack, I've got a bunch of stuff to talk to you about, but first of all, in this workshop, thank you for this, and we'll be talking about the other thing in just a moment, right? You made me really happy. But I hope these strategies have been useful to you, and also we're kind of looking at how we can use different media, mixed media, to get all sorts of events, and Pete agrees. To get us started here, Jack, is it all right if I bring you on as my guest? Right. So we're going to open this up to a discussion about all things giraffe, but also wanted to talk to you about this big thing that's been on my mind, which is, I'm going to add you to Spotlight, and you can unmute yourself.
There we go.
Because I got my very own Jack Revy kingfisher, my favorite bird.
Nice.
This is spectacular. The 3/4 view angle, and this guy has a little fish, subtle shadow, but you know how hard it is to draw shadows on white birds because we often turn them into something that looks gray. This really still feels white, feels like it's in light. The 3/4 view angle with beak open is your drafting skills have really developed. You've been putting in a ton of time and a ton of pencil miles, and I just want to let you know that I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
Now this is going to go. I'm thinking this is gonna be the new position for this on my wall in my office. So
nice.
So I really I not only appreciate the gift, but I appreciate your dedication to observation and journaling and developing your skills. You really take it seriously, and that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, and I had a question for you. My mom wanted to know if you were doing any Charlotte Mason forums. I know you're doing one in England, but are you doing one in the United States anytime next year or so? Years?
Yes, I'm actually doing one in California coming up. Let me get the dates of that for you. And let's see if I can find it. Yes, on April 29th, I will be doing a in the field workshop with near Redding, California, with a Charlotte Mason group. Oops, I just made my calendar do the wrong thing, and but I am interested in kind of going out and meeting with other Charlotte Mason groups in other places in the country, just because what I found is like a bunch of the conversations, like just, you know, around dinner tables and things on some of these, when I've done workshops with Charlotte Mason groups, it's just so interesting. So
yeah, she heard you were speaking, and she was like, because it's all the way in England.
Yeah,
but she wanted to know if you were doing any.
Slap.
Yeah, I will tell her
that. And what state are you in?
Maryland.
Okay. I don't have anything planned in that area, but I don't know, maybe we should talk about just sort of setting something up that you don't have to drive far for.
Yeah, and I'll be right back. I need to grab it, but I've been going to these power carving classes, and this guy's just amazing, Jeff Moore. He like only power carves birds, and I'm basically done it. I'm gonna go grab a little black-capped chickadee I've been working on.
Oh, I would love to see that.
I'll be right back.
So we have just really delighted by the little gift that Jack sent me in the mail. I'll show it to you folks again. So I just love kingfishers because they've got this sort of, you know, rakish attitude. They nest in banks. They eat fish. In Africa, there's this huge divergence of species. So you've got a chickadee that you've been working on. Well, hold on. I need to minimize my screen here. Move spotlight. Wait, bring it back. Bring it back. You carved this.
Yeah, with like it's really fun. You can drop in anytime. He's got Saturday classes, stuff in the week. I always go on Saturday though. And he just kind of shows you what to do. And you do it with this little power tool. And then paint it afterwards when you're done. It's really fun.
Do you think this person would be a good speaker for Wild Wonder?
Um, yeah, yeah.
I wonder.
He usually
This
does
is
carving,
really cool. So
but
what,
yeah,
what is the name of this person? What's this person's name?
Jeff Moore.
Jeff Moore. I'm going to write this down. Jeffmore.
Jeffmoore. Yeah.
Bird carving. That's really cool. Well, and how those? Wait, there's feet on this.
Yeah, those are metal. So I think you buy them, and then I painted them, and then they fit in to this little mount.
Oh, look at this guy. This is so cool. Your anatomy, it's working from all angles on this. This is really fun. And can you show us the tool that you're using?
I don't have it with me. I usually use his tools, but it's like almost, if you ever heard of a Dremel tool,
Yeah.
it's like it makes a funny sound like ying, ying, ying when you carve on it, and that with various bits. And once you're done that, you use a little wood burner to do texturing on the tail and all the feathers. And then you do the thing called stoning, which use a little stone bit, and that's how you get the texturing. I don't know if you can see it on the screen on the belly.
Wow.
It's a lot of fun.
That looks like so much fun. So are these YouTube classes or the
No, in person. In person, yeah.
classes? So this is
At his house.
so you go to this person's house and this person is teaching how to do this.
Yeah, luckily it's only like half an hour away, and he's like probably one of the best in the state.
Wow. That is really cool. That is so cool. That's really, really, really interesting. And I think that, you know, I've a friend of mine, hold on, let me get this thing out of my drawer here. A friend of mine is a bird carver. And I think that I think that Carolyn may have taken my little bird carving. That this person had a partially done bird carving, and I learned a lot just by holding it up and turning it at different angles, thinking about foreshortening. Being able to work with something three-dimensional like that is, I think, such a powerful way to revisualize anything that you're doing. What a great activity.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that. Again, thank you for this lovely Christmas present.
You're welcome.
And I just it's and also, as you can see, I'm using the tools that that you sent. At first I didn't see this, and then I realized that this was on the outside of the package. I'm like, I know exactly what this is. Very useful. Hey, thank you so much. It's great to see you.
Thank you. You too.
Let's see here. I am going to bounce over to my gallery view. You can either use the raise hand function. You can also use um, um, the just sort of wave at me on the screen, and I will see that you've got something to share. I see Kate and Ray Bonto have got something to share. I'm going to add Kate into the spotlight here, and you can unmute.
Hi.
Hey there. Have you been teaching some classes?
I have not. I've been taking some classes though.
Oh, but you've got the little arm out, and I was wondering if
I do. So I want to get back into doing stuff like that some more. This is what I'm using it for, doing kind of like the little speed paint videos where I'll show kind of the process of painting stuff. Classes take, as you know, a long time to organize, and right now I've got so much going between working. Just started the Yale classes, were excellent, and I'm trying to figure out like the ethics of which resources I can share, because they keep sending me all this great stuff, and I sent some of it to Avea. I'm like, I'm compelled to share this with people. I also don't want to disrespect the livelihood of the person creating it. And so I'm trying to figure out like, okay, what stuff can I share, direct resources, versus what stuff can I like reteach skills in different wording.
yeah. It's that's we want to respect people's intellectual property and the work that they put into developing resources and materials. And then we also want to share as widely as we can. And it's sometimes it's hard to sort of figure out how to balance those things.
Yeah. And it's nice with your stuff, whenever I meet someone who's vaguely interested in science or art, I'm like, have you checked out John Muir Law's website? There's so much stuff on there. I know that like there's all this amazing stuff that, you know, even just by viewing and enjoying it, you know, I don't know exactly what benefits you get from it. I know there's some like ad revenue from videos and all that, but
actually I haven't monetized any of my videos.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just on, I support myself on the donations that people make.
Wow, okay.
I'm considering putting monetization into those videos, because you know any other stream of income does help.
Yeah.
But at this point, I've been resisting that.
Yeah, I could see it both ways. Because on one hand, it's like 30 seconds of video that you eventually skip past to watch the rest of, you know, the content, and if that monetarily supports you, then it does not bother me that much. But yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so Yale classes, those are amazing. The first one's about the history of natural, or like basically the history of documenting natural science, which is really amazing. It talks about why people did it, the ideology behind it, and how we went from science being like a philosophy thing to science being its own practice, and how everything branched out, and it's really amazing. Doing that and just trying to build up my own stuff and work on that salamander book, and trying to get myself to a point where I feel really good about having art that I want to start reproducing. Because I just don't feel like I'm quite at that polished stage yet.
Well, so just be aware of imposter syndrome. All right, so all of us have this feeling, I am not worthy, I'm not good enough. Before I came on to teach this workshop on the giraffes, I had the same little dialogues going through my head of like, you know, who am I kidding? Like you know, you'd think that at some point you would stop kind of having those voices in your head that say you can't do this, but they're always going to be there. So if you're waiting till those voices go away, you're going to be waiting forever.
Right. Yeah, it's just hard though, because trying to figure out like, I mean, for me, I feel like I haven't quite nailed sketching and choosing lines nicely, and that I've got all these, but I have been putting a lot of pencil miles. I'll show you what I've done since we last spoke. working on the salamander stuff. I went to one of our local pet shops that does really good animal husbandry, and they were excited to have me in there because it was a weekday and it was very slow. So I got set up with a chair and was drawing their fish,
Fun.
which is a great way to do it just because they're right there. It's free to visit, and usually the people who work at like the small places are really passionate about what they do. And they're happy to talk about all the different species. That I've been using my main sketchbook just as like where I do my basic sketches that I then transfer out for my other paintings. Let's see. There's one of those.
Ooh, I love the twisty on this.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out how to do a field guide that has some of the like ecology of the animals built in. So one of the things I'm working on, like at work when it gets slow, trying to figure out how to like create something like scientific illustrations that show the animal in a way that can be identified, but then also in a way that shows part of its ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so that's been a very kind of ambitious project. And little cat.
Let me show you a little field guide that my recollection does a good job with that idea.
Okay.
So there's two things that come to mind. I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to, without too much trouble. This one and this one. And actually, there's one bird book. This one. So these were three things that I thought kind of show some of those ideas pretty well. And actually, the first one I'm realizing not as much as my memory was. I was going to point out this little pond life book, which I absolutely love. This cute little, really rigorous guide, but this one actually doesn't have a lot of background stuff in it. But this looks like just like kind of a junk book, that you might pass up. But the Golden Pond Life Guide, whoever did this was like an uber geek on these things and really did a deep dive. But here's something with great, this Wild Mammals of Missouri book does wonderful stuff of kind of showing context with its sketches. So like here we are in, here's their eastern gray squirrel. So they've got, come back, there we are, wow. So there's a range map, there's a sketch of the critter, here's its skull, here's the underside of the foot. And then as they're going on talking about it, here's tracks in the snow and it says buried nut located and dug up. I mean, just look at how much information is in that. Feeding site of squirrel, often marked by gnawed shells and nuts. Here's this little one sitting on a branch. Here's this one carrying its young down a tree. So they will have, these, here's a little vole, the lemming mouse, and here's drawings of its droppings and cut little grasses along the trail. And then here's the owl that nibbled it. So there's lots of these little insets in here that give you just a little bit more information. Like here's this cross section of the burrow system. Here's tracks, actual size. Here's the patterns between tracks. Here's the chipmunk gnawing on an antler. There's its range map. Here it is looking at a sphinx moth. Oh, I mean, just the little sketches in these, the little insets, give you so much crazy context. I love that. and then a standard field guide. This is all the birds of North America from the American Bird Conservancy, and they're very deliberate about putting in all the critters in context. Look, there's the old space shuttle in the background, and down here in I guess in Florida, and so things will be in a context that makes sense instead of things being out on a just a bare page. So isn't this interesting? Here's the whooping crane picture. And what do they have for the whooping cranes? They have them walking around on this dried up wetland, a wetland that's been destroyed, to kind of bring people's attention to the idea of habitat loss. You know, and so the subtitle under this is Drained Wetlands, Lost Habitat. You know, so they're being really intentional about what, this is fun. I don't know if you can see this in the background, but it's a group of bird watchers on a field trip. So there's bird watchers on a field trip there. So this little one has very often, you know, useful, intentional background, rather than the traditional field guide where it's against just the blank field. But back to you, Kate.
Oh yeah, I was going to show you kind of what that was looking like. So this one's actually going to be redone, but the whole idea was to kind of have some sort of narrative element in there, like the Audubon images have, where you have ecosystem and then you have usually some little behavior thing in there, like this.
Oh, those it's eggs on the bottom of the log there?
Yes, so that one's actually redone because there's two more pieces of information that need to go into this. One is that there's a fully melanated or completely black morph of the salamander that's quite common. So I'm going to do two of those together. And then I'm actually going to show the eggs hatching, because these salamanders, the South Carolina slimy salamander, does something quite unique where it doesn't have a aquatic stage of life, and they just hatch as salamanders and move on with their development just like that.
That's cool. I think our Ensatina out here does the same sort of a thing. That's
yeah,
weird.
well, those are newts, aren't they? So they have like the dry eft form, and then
I don't think the Ensatina is a newt.
Oh no,
we can find out.
I guess it has the costal grooves, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah, so it would not be. So this one is the dwarf water dog, and this one's, I think this version's making it in the book. But basically their whole thing is they're aquatic salamanders and they tend to like a lot of leaf litter. So try to do that. I try to give that little dappling to imply that there's, you know, light coming down, it's being refracted with water. Yeah.
Oh, that is fun. That is fun. And that also has just, you know, such you know, the patterns in the tail, and then trying to figure out how to make that wrap around and turn. That is such an illustration challenge.
Yeah, because I wanted to look dynamic and alive and have the animals being like living animal positions, not just, well, I mean, not that salamanders just don't just stand in a nice straight little thing where you can see their sides, but I want to have a dynamic one that is a little bit more alive than kind of just your strict field guide version. And I have like a written component by Parker, who, if you saw the video I did a while ago, he's basically providing all of the information from that. And yeah, it's kind of a fun collaboration.
That's great.
And if you notice, my cat is trying to get into her food container, and she would really like to have some opposable thumbs.
Oh, how fortunate that we don't.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's why raccoons would make bad pets.
Yeah, a cat with opposable thumbs would be trouble for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I think just almost got in.
She can open it. So
yeah.
if you put it somewhere up high, she'll throw it off the shelf and then she has to undo the little latches on both sides, and then she can pull the bag of kibble or dried fish out, and then she has to tear it open. It's a whole thing that happens at 4 in the morning most nights. Yeah. So that's fun. Nature.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, I'll pass on to someone else, but thanks for all the
Hey,
feedback.
Kate, thanks so much for sharing. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for all the support on this, and I ended up getting a scanner, so
Oh, you did? Good.
I did. Doing that, trying to learn some of the Photoshop stuff, and yeah, we'll see. There's a lot more stuff that goes into this than I had thought, but you know.
Yeah. I think I've got a video of making an illustration of a salamander, and in that I kind of go through what my kind of post-processing in Photoshop routine is.
Yeah, I did watch that.
And so the levels slider.
The what?
The levels slider. So doing an additional, so not modifying your original file, but doing an adjustment layer of levels allows you to darken your darks and lighten your lights, and sort of play with your kind of dark to light balance in a really, really useful way. So that's something I often do on it. So check out the levels function as an adjustment layer, so you're not modifying your original scan.
Great. Okay. Yeah, that's one of the great things about the scanner too, is that it's, once something's digital, it's so easy to make extra copies, and yeah.
And so now that you're also going to start to generate a whole bunch of drawings for this, one other really big suggestion is to, if you can work at 8.5 by 11, do a whole bunch of drawings on 8.5 by 11 paper. Get a whole bunch of 8.5 by 11 paper, because it's easy to keep in vertical file folders.
Okay.
And otherwise, if you've got like a whole bunch of things that are like this size,
yeah,
where are you going to stick them?
Well, okay, so what I've been doing is I have one gigantic portfolio thing, and I scan stuff, and I have folders with scanned versions of things, and then I have just been kind of chucking everything that I create into my one gigantic brown portfolio thing.
Is it a flat file?
It is. Is this what you're talking about?
Okay, yeah, no. So here's the challenge. Imagine this thick.
Yeah.
And then with something that size, you can't put it on a shelf. You can't, then people will get, like, you can put it in a flat file, but then that takes a ton of space. And so hold on, I'm going to see if I can, Avea, I'm going to try to disconnect my computer here and see if I don't get deleted, going on a little walk in my house, carrying my computer.
Oh boy.
But so we're going to go on a little Jack's house. Are we still here?
Yes, you are.
We are so far.
Right. So we are going down the hallway past the whiteboard of craziness and over to the garage. Say hello to the pantry. Hello, pantry. And into the garage, moving the chairs. And I don't know if we can see right there on the floor. Do you see that? This is a fire safe. And it's locked right now, so I can't get into it. But actually, we're gonna get the keys. And I'm going to show you why I think that 8.5 by 11 is if you start early in your career doing drawings on 8.5 by 11, then you don't down the line have this massive paper management nightmare. Because you're going to have all of these papers in your house, and they're all large format. Moving the PVC pipe. There we go. Look at that. Can we see that? Oh, look at that. Those are files of papers and 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 drawings and drawings and drawings and drawings. We're going to just pull out one of these files. All right, come on, little file. Come with me. What are you? What are you? Here's some flowers. That's cool. And what about, what are you? All right. And, okay. We'll get this one too. So I've got hanging file folders here. We're now going to bring these. Hello, whiteboard. And I can have a huge number of pieces of paper in these, and they don't completely clutter up the house. Let's take a look at. Here you go. Here you go. So these are drawings of mushrooms, and 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 drawings of, oh, some lichen, and more mushrooms, and mushroom after mushroom after mushroom. You know, if these were all spread out in flat files, there would not be much room in my house for anything else.
Well, you could get rid of the kids. That would make some space.
That's true. That's true. But it would only be a temporary solution. It would only be a temporary solution. That would work. But then eventually you'd fill up that with all these flat files. And I think that flat files are just, they are also, the flat files then make it impossible for you to ever move again.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So here's botanicals. Here's Iris longipedala, and here's another plant, and here's a lupin, and here are some acers, and more plants and more plants and more plants and more plants. But because all of these are in are vertically stored in a hanging file, they don't bend.
Yeah.
And they don't take up space. And the secret, though, is that I just got a bunch of paper that was 8.5 by 11. And because I did all those drawings on that paper, they all go whoop, 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 into those flat files, and then you down the line are not going to have a nightmare of paper storage.
Yeah.
So the flat files end up taking a ton of space, or you'll take that folder, that portfolio folder that you have, and you'll end up, stick it behind the cabinet, but then the cabinet gets filled with, hold on a second. So you end up getting a larger kind of like portfolio bag, and then you'd stick this somewhere, and then all the little places where you can stick things like that get filled with things like that, and you're stuck. You can no longer move. And the so those large format things become increasingly impractical to store.
Definitely.
So start planning for that now, and you will avoid a collision with the paper logistics nightmare.
That is great advice. I will follow that.
Excellent. So great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Let's join Ray Bonto, Vea Moore, and Susan Beckert. Ray Bonto, about to bring you on. Hello there. Great to see you.
Hi, good to see you too. So, yeah, these are the muscles.
Nice. You really sort of get a sense of the volume of the muscles and the way you're handling those. Oh, and I like the way you did that kind of quick little gesture of the little baby giraffe kind of doing its legs in those cool positions. Just that little sketch shows that you understand. You can look through that body and understand the anatomy that's there. That's cool.
Then,
oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Those, yeah. Sometimes backing off something, working on a head, zooming in, sort of changing the scales in our drawings really helps us see more, journal more. Love that. Thank you.
and then the painting.
All right. Excellent. The what kind of pencil were you using for the white lines?
Prismacolor.
Prismacolor. Yep, me too. So consider on that just a little bit more pressure with the Prismacolor when you're going on it. Hold it up again. Oh yeah, nicely done. And but this really we see it here on white paper. You see how it gets this sort of nice. You can then get a nice fade of the watercolor. That works really well.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks. Oh yeah, we went to the Natural History Museum in London.
Ooh.
Well, there were plenty of dinosaurs, but it was so crowded we had to move on, and I only managed 2 sketches. So this is a baryonyx. It's basically an English Spinosaur, at least a small relative of the Spinosaurus with a small sail.
That's so cool. The pelvises of dinosaurs are so interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a big pubic bone that sort of sticks forward. Like what is up with that? What was going on with that? This is really neat. This is fun.
Baryonyx literally means heavy claw. So
look at that. Wouldn't it have been amazing to see that thing in life doing its thing?
yeah, it used to eat fish. So the thing is, it used to catch the fish with its jaw, and then it used to impale it with its claw.
That's interesting. I wonder what evidence they use to make that inference about its behavior.
Hmm.
That's cool.
I mean, it's still a likely guess, but here's the Camarasaurus.
Oh, oh my gosh, that's great. Um, oh,
I
this
mean,
is,
it had a way longer tail than this, but
oh, um, that is so cool. Oh, I would love to go sketch that Camarasaurus. Folks, I just got a message on my screen that popped up that said I am supposed to be teaching a different workshop 12 minutes ago.
well,
And so
fun.
I am going to have to bounce. I'm afraid, Avea, I'm not going to be able to. Let's catch up later. I'd love to talk to you about whatever is on your mind, or perhaps you can also share with the group. And I'd love to see what is going on with you, Susan. But I think I do need to jet. And Avea, would you be willing to take over the workshop here?
No problem. Yes.
I am going to pass the reins to you. You're now our host. Thank you so much. And I will talk to all of you soon. I hope you have fun today with Giraffe, and have a great weekend, everybody. If you're over here in California, stay dry, and try to avoid driving around this weekend. It's going to be a big whooper of a storm. So take care. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Jack.